everybody, I'm here in my car and I have some time to make a little video for y'all. I haven't been doing the bus stop happenings because it's summer and there's no school right now here in the United States. But right now I'm waiting on someone at the airport, so I thought I would go ahead and make a video about something that happened this morning or past night. What happened was I had a dream. So this is actually the second dream that I've had since this realization. It's something that kind of fell away from me. I used to dream a lot more and now I don't dream very much, but apparently, it still happens because I had a dream last night. So this dream, I'm going to tie it in with a commenter's question about feelings and sensations. So the person had asked in a comment whether how is it possible that feelings and sensations happen if there is no one? Like, who's experiencing it? So that was the basis of the question. So in my dream, I was having a dream that I woke up out of, and it was that my arm was being tortured. So I couldn't see in the dream, excuse me, who was torturing my arm, but I could feel the sensations of it, and it hurt and it was tingling and picking. And so I could feel that something was happening to my arm in the dream and that I was being tortured. I had, kind of like that knowledge that something was happening to me, but I couldn't see who was torturing me. I could feel that somebody was poking me with a needle over and over again on my arm. And then I could feel that somebody was actually smashing my arm with, like, I thought was a hammer. So basically in this dream, all that really occurred was that my arm was being tortured. And I didn't know by who, why, or anything. So I had the feelings of being scared, being hurt, feeling helpless, and just all the feelings in my arm. I felt them in my dream. So when I woke up out of that dream, I kind of rolled over and I was trying to, just come back to what was happening because I was just coming out of a dream. And I realized I was in the dream and I said, oh wow, that was just a dream. But yet my arm was still hurting and tingly and everything like that. So I went and, moved my arm around, and come to find out, the way that I was laying on my arm had fallen asleep. So it was numb, and then when I would move it, it would be tingly, and the lower part of it almost kind of hurt because I don't know how long I had been laying in that position. So apparently what was happening was that I was experiencing actually that my arm was falling asleep in, let's say in real life, which this is also an illusion, but in real life, that my arm, was asleep. I was feeling all those sensations, but my mind, or whatever it is that's doing all of this, which is something separate than me, I'm just saying maybe like the mind, the imagination, those sorts of things, created a story around the feelings and sensations that I was having in my arm into the dream. So now I was in the dream as myself, yet I was feeling that I was being tortured and that somebody was hurting me and that I was helpless, that I couldn't get away, and I felt very alone and scared. So all of that was a story created out of a few sensations that I was having on my arm. So I thought that was very interesting, almost like an insight for me, because what happens is that's a dream, right? So that happened, but it's a dream, and I was able to wake up out of it and say, oh, well, I was just dreaming. That didn't really happen. I wasn't really being tortured. It felt like I was being tortured. I woke up sweaty and scared. So, I was having all the physical feelings, sensations, and reactions that you would have if you were actually being tortured. So I woke up in that state. Yet I could know that I was dreaming, right? And then whenever I began to examine what was happening, I could see that it was just literally my arm had fallen asleep and my mind or whatever was creating all of these stories in my dream. So it was like a two-part thing. So the insight there is that there is feelings and sensations that happen here in your physical form or expression that you are here. So my physical form or expression is Nydia, is this person that you're seeing here talking to you. And, you know, I appear to be a regular, normal, real physical person. And yeah, that's how I function through life, as like a person that is just like you. Yet I have had this realization that there's no one here or in any bodies, or that really this whole life is an illusion. It's a beautiful illusion, but it's not what I originally thought it was. And there's no one that's actually experiencing all of this. All of this is just happening because, you know, well, not for any reason, but it's happening from oneness, from just everything being one. So when everything's just one, everything's just happening because it wants to happen for no reason. There's no one else there for it to teach something. There's no one else there for it to have a consequence or have a goal or have a purpose of some kind. It's just doing it for itself. So if we move back before, you know, let's say that this existence was here, and even before that, it's just nothingness. There's nothing. From nothing comes everything, and it's the same. It's like two sides of one coin. So all of that is encompassed in all that nothingness. So everything that's happening is coming from nothingness. Yet it can be so full, and it's infinite. When it's infinite, that means everything that could be experienced is going to be experienced by no one, but it is going to be experienced. It is going to happen. No one is experiencing it, it's just happening, okay? But it's feeling like it's being experienced. It's just going through everything that could possibly ever happen. And with that, for everything to be experienced, everything that the mind can create, that imagination can create, is infinity. That is all infinity. That's part of infinity. So when the mind creates a story around a feeling or sensation, that's infinity expressing that, whatever, that feeling, that sensation, for whatever it was that occurred in that way. And it can be expressed a different way, maybe later on, or with a different expression, or whatever. This is infinity. It just, anything and everything will happen. But no one is experiencing it. It's just happening. So just like my dream, where I felt that my arm was being tortured and someone was smashing it with a hammer, and, you know, somebody was picking at it and doing all of these things. When I woke up out of that dream, I realized no one was being tortured. No one was being tortured. But all those feelings and sensations were felt. Because I woke up sweaty, because I woke up with my heart racing, because I woke up with still actually my arm tingling, which I had fallen asleep on it, but all of those feelings and sensations in my dream, I was owning them, that they were mine, and I was feeling them, and it was very, very real and scary. But when I woke up, it was like, oh, that wasn't me. That was just a dream. Nobody was torturing me. Nothing was happening. Yet all of those feelings and sensations were felt. So the same thing happens here in, let's say, the real life, right? Where we think that this is the real life. So our mind can create stories around everything and anything. So if someone, you know, mistreats us, if we fall, if we get into an argument with somebody, if somebody accuses us of something, if we have a scab, if we have a cut, a bump, our mind will create stories around why that happened, why it's happening, who's doing it, any and everything that it can. It will hang on to that, and see how it can create a story about it. Okay, so when those stories are created, those are also illusions. They're just stories being created for something that's happening. So me having like a bump on my arm or something is just a bump on my arm. Really, it could just be I just hit myself, and that may be a story as well. That, you know, I'm imagining that I hit myself because it's an illusion. But in any case, you know, if I hit myself and I have a bump, I might start to create other stories. Oh, I'm so clumsy. Oh, I always hit myself. Or, man, I can't do anything right. You know, those sorts of stories that we weave that really are just negative self-talk. So there's all kinds of stories we can tell ourselves. Negative ones, positive ones. You know, they could be a loving story. Oh, you hit yourself. You know, be more careful. You know, it's going to be okay. But at the same time, you're telling yourself something that should be different than what is. Even saying something that sounds caring to yourself, like, oh, you know, it's okay. These things just happen. Just be more careful next time. Those sorts of stories are also just kind of a little bit shifted from what actually is. The non-dual experience, when it's really in its essence being experienced, is just what is. So when you hit yourself, it's just, oh, I hit myself, and you just keep going. And if there is something that you need to do to take care of it, let's say that you need an ice pack, then you go get the ice pack. But there's no stories that come with it. It's just like, I hit myself. Oh, okay, well, let me go get an ice pack. And it's okay. It seems like there is preferences. Of course, I haven't hit myself or something like that happen, and I'd be very, very happy about it. I've been kind of happy to sit with sadness or anger or certain emotions that I hadn't before, but not necessarily pain. So, you know, pain happens and it's preferred or not preferred, but the stories around it, or the blame or the guilt or anything that can be told about that, just doesn't happen anymore. And it can happen. I mean, I'm not going to say it can't happen, because anything and everything can happen. But generally it doesn't happen. It's like the dreaming. I used to dream all the time, and now I've only had 2 dreams within the past year and a half. So it's not to say that I can't dream or I don't dream. It does happen, but it doesn't happen as often. And when it happens, it's seen for what it is. So like when I have the thoughts that weave a story around something simple that happened, that doesn't happen very often. So like 2 times a year or something like that, you know. And where before it used to be literally every single time something happened, my mind was telling a story around it. And then after the story came the what should I do about it? And then what should I do about it came the guilt and shame of how I let this happen, or how did this happen to me. So all of those stories are part of the illusion. You can clearly see how they're part of the illusion in a dream, but for whatever reason it's hard for people to understand that in our current reality, our waking reality, when we're not sleeping. But waking reality and sleeping reality are the same. They're the same. Sleeping, and when you're having a dream in there, we can say that's an illusion. But people have trouble saying that this life is an illusion. But it really is. It's all the same. Everything is just happening. Everything is connected. And it's not really to be something scary. It's just what is. It's what we've always experienced. It's just seen through when the person has a realization, or when the person really questions their thoughts, whatever's happening with them, it seems to be seen. And not with everybody, of course, because there's just a very small population of people who are speaking of this. So I imagine not very many people have had this experience. But when you've had this experience, there's no going back. You automatically know at all times what the true reality is, what the nature of reality is, what you are. And what you are is not your body, is not this expression. So anything and everything can happen to this expression, to this body, but it's not really a lasting thing. It's not something that carries on or keeps going. It just happens and then goes away, happens and goes away. And then even further than that, eventually this expression may be no more. And when that happens, what I am is still going to live. It's never been, it never was born. It never died. It's never going to change. It's timeless. It's endless. It is everything. So if we could say it's the fabric that is woven in everything on this earth. So whether you see it or not, everything is already interwoven with this fabric. The fabric is what is timeless, what is here. And people get hung up on words, but I think the best word to use for something like this is consciousness. The consciousness that is in everything. The fabric of consciousness that is flowing through me, that is flowing through my dog over here, that is flowing through my other dog back here, that is flowing through this seat, through this car. If you follow science, you will see that a lot of what I'm talking about is already starting to be proven by science. So what I find very interesting, because I'm a nature lover, is how they're starting to find that mushrooms and trees and just things that we didn't think about are conscious in the way that they have families, that they communicate, that they do things for reasons, that they're aware of weather, they're aware of bugs, they're aware of dangers, they're communicating and aware of these things. And it seems to me like they're even aware of other people or animals and things like that that are happening around them. So that's all very interesting. How are these things that we thought weren't conscious in the same way that we are conscious? Well, they're maybe not as conscious as we are to communicate and do some of the things that we're able to do, but some of them do communicate, and we didn't think that they could. So all of this is starting to be exposed, or it's starting to be common knowledge in the science field that a lot of things that we didn't think have consciousness. And why do they have consciousness? Why do all these things have consciousness? Because that is the fabric that's woven in everything. So everything is conscious, whether we think that these sunglasses are conscious or not. I can tell you, there's different, in my opinion, there's different levels. Like maybe it's very primitive. Maybe the consciousness is just being felt and worn or whatever. But there is consciousness in everything. And everything is here for a reason. And it's infinite and constantly changing, constantly transforming. There's all these stories behind it. Everything is always changing and different. And it's going through infinite everything that it could ever happen. So, but it's all one. So with that, it's a lot of information, but I wanted to touch on the point specifically about feelings and sensations and tying that to my dream, to say that feelings and sensations do happen, and they can happen for nobody. Just like they happened in my dream to supposedly myself in that dream, yet I wasn't really that person in that dream. That was just an illusion in a dream that I woke up from, and then I realized I wasn't being tortured. So I wasn't being tortured. That wasn't me. That wasn't my sensations, but they were felt. And in those moments, I was sweaty. My heart was racing. My arm did hurt, and I was scared. When I woke up, it was all seen through. Same thing here in this real life that we say, but it's all the same. In this real life, things can happen to us. We can experience pain, we can experience anxiety, we can experience, let's say, the same sort of thing. We can be tortured. But when it's seen, it's in the moment, it's painful, right? In the moment when you're being tortured, if it was here on real life, it's painful. It hurts. Just like the dream, your heart's racing, you're scared, you don't want this. But it passes. As soon as the torture's over, it passes, and it's seen through that wasn't happening to me, and I can quickly move from it. Whereas if I'm very ingrained in the sense of self, that there is someone here that was tortured, there is an injustice that has happened to me, to this person, then I will suffer much, much longer, because I will take that injustice, and it could even become part of me. I could develop PTSD. I could develop anxiety, depression. I could become way overworked and try to become a detective or investigate and find who this is and go through all of this work when it's really not needed. When it's seen through that, okay, you were just tortured, but it didn't happen to anybody. Well, you have the choice. You can just move on, because really everything just kind of when you're in this state, everything just kind of falls away after it happens. Or, you know, if it feels right in your heart, you can seek justice. But it's not in a way that controls your life, that dictates your emotions, any of that. It's clearly seen that it wasn't even happening to you. It's just something that happened. So feelings and sensations can happen to the person even without there being a sense of self in there. The sense of self is just a sense that there's a self there, but there's never really a self there. There's not a self there now, 10 years ago, 20 years from now, in the future. There is no self in anybody. It's just oneness, which is this fabric of consciousness that is in everything, experiencing all these different things. If this consciousness wanted to experience all the infinite things, it couldn't be known that it is what it is, or that, you know, it is just everything. For it to have all of these experiences, there needs to be a sense of separation. There needs to be a sense of lack. If there's no sense of separation or lack, not very much happens. Yes, wonderful things happen, but there's not a lot of growth. There's not a lot of struggle. If we think about movies that we enjoy watching and things like that, the movies that we enjoy watching, they all have a plot, and it follows, a form of how it goes, where, it starts off nice, and then there's conflict, and then there's that climax, and then, even the hero's journey or something like that. There is always conflict. There is always separation. There is always lack. There is always wanting, seeking, and then obtaining and fighting and getting. So these sorts of stories that we love to watch, the only real successful ones all have these elements, because that is how life happens. That is life. This is life happening, and no one's in control of it. No one is doing it. This is just a beautiful life happening in these different ways. And sometimes people aren't happy with their life, or they don't understand why such and such happened, or this tragedy happened. Just like in a movie, there's usually an ending, and it's usually pretty positive, or it makes sense why everything else in the movie happened. Just like movies, I say, if we could have lived our life backwards, it would make a lot more sense. Because in the moment, and it's all happening at once, but in this moment, sometimes we feel, this is not working out for me. This is not right. But overall, everything's actually okay. We just can't see the ending of our story. And our story is just this finite form. We actually are everything. We are all of this consciousness. And there is no one here. But when this is seen, not a whole lot, happens, because it's all seen through. You can just, things happen and they just fall away pretty quickly. I mean, things arise and you might get angry or worked up because that's what is happening, that's what arose. But then the underlying peace, that surpasses all understanding, if you've heard that in other religions, is there. And it's seen that none of that is really happening, and you can just move and flow through life a lot easier. But the stories that we tell ourselves around sensations and feelings and all of this stuff, that's just happening as well. We're not in control of it. It's just something that happens, and different stories play out in different ways. But there is no one it's happening to. You aren't really in that situation. What you are is actually everything, and you're safe. You've never chosen to do anything. There's never been a self. You're safe. So there's nothing to fear with non-duality. It already is what it is. What I'm speaking of is just literally life happening and the acceptance of whatever happens. That's all it is. That's all it is. And then the fullness of it is just knowing that you are everything. You are everything. Not even part of it. You're everything. And what you are is never going to end. It's in everything. It's timeless. It's just everything and anything and infinite amounts of expressions. And when you can see that, you can appreciate those so-called separate things from you a lot more. And you can be more understanding and loving to those that seem separate from you, because in the end, you really do see yourself in them, and you see that they're just another expression. And it's very beautiful that there is all these different expressions that have all these different interests and lives and stories, and it's beautiful to hear everybody's story. And if you can see, nobody's story can be told without somebody else, somebody else being in that story, something else happening in that story. So we're never ever separate. And for example, me sitting here, I cannot be here and be completely separate. I'm always touching something. I'm touching this chair, I'm touching the ground, the atmosphere, the air is touching me, everything. So you are never ever separate. Think about it. You can't ever be separate from anything here. We're always touching or in connection with something, whether physically or within stories of, oh, this happened with my mom, this happened with this happened with that, growing up this happened. We're always in connection. And then the other funny part is, a lot of times you find out that, you just have all these connections with even people around the world, and there's endless amounts of things that connect you with everything and everything. And if it's not something specific that's connecting you with somebody else, the number one connector that creates connections is love. And if we can find it in our heart to love somebody else or some other expression or anything and have some compassion, then we are automatically connected by love. So we are always connected. And, that's the most beautiful connection. But, on the same token, you could be connected by anger, hate, or something like that. But the most strong and, lasting connection is love. So I know that's a lot of different information, and this just came out of me having that dream. And I wanted to kind of answer that question because I was having a lot of feelings and sensations. And in that dream, it was clearly seen that's all an illusion and nobody was experiencing it. So same thing can happen here in this reality. So I wanted to answer that question, and hopefully that makes some sense there. And if you have any further questions, go ahead and comment in the comment section, and I will get to those questions here for you. Okay? Thank you for watching.